separate but equal. You ever hear this term? Yeah, you know, if I were in charge and I had beautiful Aryan babies, I would not want them to go to school with black kids, right? Separate but equal. I'm not saying that they're worse. I just don't want them together, right? Well, separate but equal is back in the mainstream, everybody, because they're doing the same fucking shit again with transgender people. More say birth gender should dictate sports participation. I don't hate transgender people. I just want them to be as far away from my kids as possible. I don't hate them. I'm not afraid of them. No, it's not that. I just don't want them around my kids. Separate but equal. Right? It solves all of our problems, right? I'm not saying they're worse. I'm just saying, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have them around? Now, there's a lot of people watching this video that may think, sports, woo, sports, everybody. Oh, it's not fair. It's not fair, goddamn sports. Oh, goddamn sports ain't fair. Really? Wow. You know how you can tell very easily if someone knows anything about sports? If they complain about fairness in sports. If someone complains about fairness in sports, you know for a fact they don't know shit about sports. Now, I will say this as someone that doesn't care about sports. I know more about sports than most people. For example, I know that Michael Phelps has a 1 in a million genetic abnormality. Literally, it is impossible for an average person to swim as good as Michael Phelps. It is impossible. It is impossible. Are we going to ban Michael Phelps? What about fairness in sports? What about it? What happened to fairness in sports? All of a sudden, you know, when it comes to trans people, fairness is the biggest thing in the world. When it comes to Michael Phelps, sorry, what about Usain Bolt? Well, we got to be fair, right? What about those basketball players that are 7 feet tall? Come on, man. What about fairness? Right? I'm not saying Michael Phelps should be banned from swimming. I think he should just go to his own pool. Separate, but equal. A large majority of Americans now, 69%, a larger majority of Americans now than in 2021 say transgender athletes should only be allowed to compete on sports teams that conform to their birth gender. Likewise, fewer endorse transgender athletes being able to play on teams that match their current gender identity, 26% down to 34%. Now, I need people to really understand this. Sports are inherently unfair. It is impossible to have a sport that is fair, especially when it comes to kids. You know how they do sports in school? It's based on what grade you're in. Did you know that? Now, sometimes, let's say if someone's held back for a couple years and they're like 15 in 7th grade, they might change it up. But it's based on what class you're in, what grade you're in. Right? And I don't know if anyone... I know people often try to memory hole their own childhoods, but does anyone remember this thing called puberty? Do you remember that? Puberty. Sometimes people go through puberty when they're 9 years old. Sometimes people start puberty when they're 14. What does puberty do? It changes the hormone balance of your body, which results in changes to your body, such as muscular strength. So you're telling me kids' sports steeped in fairness, they don't judge people by what percentage through puberty they're going through? Wouldn't that be a fair way to do it? How can you have someone who started puberty 4 years ago competing with someone who's not even started puberty yet? How can you do that? It's not fair. It's not fair. What about the fairness? It's not fair. Where's the fairness? I need people to understand that... Now, I say this all the time. Most Americans are disgusting, uneducated, hateful, evil, fuckers. That's the average American. I would put that at 80+%. So it's no surprise that 70% of Americans hate transgender people. And I need you to understand that this is a hatred of transgender people. Anyone that says, well, I don't, whatever on the transgender, whatever, but the sports, they hate us. I need you to really understand. They hate us, and even worse, they're fucking pussy bitches, and they're afraid to say it to our fucking faces. So they hide it behind this separate but equal bullshit. There are plenty of black women in sports that got banned from their sport of choice because their testosterone was too high. Yeah. Cisgender black women banned from sports because their testosterone was too high. Right? So these reactionary, hate-fueled campaigns don't just affect transgender people, they affect black people, and they affect cisgender people. So when you hear someone say separate but equal, because that's what this is. All it is separate but equal. That's all it is. This idea that sports need to be fair. I mean, I know we live in a country where 70% of people believe in God. So magical thinking is not, outside of these people's day-to-day lives. But the idea that kids' sports can be fair in any motherfucking way, and that it was fair until the trannies came along, give me a motherfucking break. It's just so stupid. It's dumb that we segregate sports by gender. It's dumb that we segregate sports by age and not, any other scientific measurement. It's dumb that people think sports are fair. And it's dumb that people are pretending like sports have anything to do with whether or not people have equal rights. And you know what? This same thing happened with black people in major sports leagues in the 1950s. When baseball, for example, first started allowing black people to play for major teams, what was the outrage? Well, black people they're giants. They're savages. Look at their muscles. They're so big and strong. It's unfair to the precious white people. Now, people that don't know their history wouldn't know that, but it's the same argument that we're seeing now. It's the same argument. It's not fair. Oh my goodness, the fairness. It's the same fucking shit, dude. Sports, 1, have never been fair. 2, will never be fair. And 3, should not be an arena for you to play out your hatred of certain minority groups. But anyway, I don't really care about reading more into this. It's just a bunch of garbage. And anybody that bases their political opinions or their political identity on polls like this, go fuck yourself. Because, again, I did this segment, and I don't want to, harp on this guy. I don't want to turn that into a thing. But I did this segment yesterday about Ryan Grimm being a fucking moron, saying that Trump should be pardoned by Joe Biden for the good of the country, right? And in that video, I talked about how Ryan Grimm has horrible takes on trans people, and people were like, oh, really? I didn't know that. And then I went on Twitter, and I saw Ryan Grimm literally say separate but equal and talking about how he doesn't think trans people should be allowed to play sports. Literally, I'm just saying, liberals that base their entire worldview on the polls, they're as bad as neo-Nazis. I don't give a fuck. In fact, I would say they're worse. Because at least neo-Nazis have the dignity to say, yeah, I fucking hate you. Liberals are going to pretend that they care about you. Liberals are going to say, oh, I'm here to help. I'm your ally. And then when push comes to shove, they're going to leave you out in the gutter. Separate but equal, my ass. Now, again, I know, we live in a country where 70% of people believe in God. So it's no surprise that 70% of people believe that sports are magically fair until trans people came along. Like, sports were the ultimate test in fairness. And then came the trans, right? Like, what the fuck? And again, it's magical thinking. It's believing in a reality that is just incompatible with the real world. And that's just all it is. When someone says separate but equal, what they really mean is I fucking hate you, but I'm scared of the reaction that I might receive if I tell you up front that I hate you. That's what it means. So when one of these motherfuckers says, I don't hate transes, but I'm not racist, but black people shouldn't be allowed in sports, I'm not transphobic, but trannies shouldn't be allowed in public. Like, whenever you see this fucking shit, you need to understand these people are as fickle as a fucking tumbleweed going through a sandstorm, okay? These people don't have political beliefs. They don't have beliefs in general. These people are clout chasers. And people always ask, how did the Holocaust happen? How could everyday regular people just let it happen? How? We're watching it. 70% of Americans hate trans people. We're watching it. It's going up in real time. It's going up in real time. Right? What is the gap? It's like a 7-point gap? So like, what, 63% of Americans hated me? And they never met me. They've never spoken to me. But they hate me. And now, that was 2 years ago, now it's 70%. They hate me just for being alive. Jesus fucking Christ. It's ridiculous. And then the people that claim to be allies, the moment a poll comes out, they're right on board. Separate but equal. Get the trannies out of school. Those are the liberals now, folks. 70% of Americans, if you are trans, 70% of Americans hate you. And I don't say that in a way of fear-mongering. I say that as a way to acknowledge reality. Now, again, there's obviously a different level of hatred, right? I'm not saying the 70% of Americans want to burn us at the stake and kill us all in a genocide like the Holocaust. I'm not saying that. Now, am I saying that they wouldn't care that much if it happened? Absolutely. You think people like you think liberals, you think Joe Biden would care that much? You think he'd be so deeply personally offended if Donald Trump came in and passed a law that put me in a concentration camp? He might say, that's wrong, mister, but he doesn't give a shit. These people don't care. They don't care. Now, again, I'm all in favor of educating people. That's why I do these videos. I want people to be educated on certain subjects from a historical lens of analysis. But how the fuck are you going to undo 70% of Americans believing in Jesus? How do you undo that? I don't know. How do you undo 70% of Americans thinking sports are intrinsically fair but for the trans people? Like, sports are the ultimate test in fairness, and then trans people destroyed everything. 70% of Americans believe that. How? Because they're fucking stupid. Now, maybe we can individually educate certain people. But I mean, how the fuck do you undo 70% of people being transphobic? How do you do that? I don't know. I really don't know. So again, I'm not trying to fearmonger here. Well, maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe I am trying to get the fuck out of this country. That's what I got to say. Because fuck is not looking so good. Not looking so good.